So yesterday I was telling you that our broody hens' eggs hatched. We had 4. 2 of them, there was a problem with the eggs. Somebody chipped all the shell off, and so it was just that rubbery plastic type of membrane that was around it. I showed you all that yesterday. Well, those 2 didn't make it. Well, then these 2 hatched. One hatched just before, I don't know, 6:30 or so. And then the other one hatched somewhere in between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning. So they was relatively quick because the egg was, when I looked at them, were perfectly intact. So they got out of there in a hurry. They say, though, that it can take up to 24 hours for them to complete their breakout of the egg. I really felt like things were going to go wrong pretty quick. The hens just wouldn't leave her alone. I didn't know if the chicks would follow her out of the coop so she could go eat. So we felt like it was a safer bet to go ahead and put her in the camper. Well, all that was pretty traumatic for the broody hen. She didn't like it. She wouldn't get in the nest. She just didn't want to be relocated. We sat around for several hours waiting for her to take care of her babies again, and she just wouldn't. So we put her back into the chicken run, the coop, and we brought these guys up here. Well, sure enough, she stopped being broody. She roosted and just was back to normal. So I don't understand why she allowed her chicks to hatch and then decided not to take care of them. Everything we read said that she would take care of them, but I guess the trauma of moving her was just too much. So we're going to do things a little different next time so we don't have to do this. We're going to train the broody hen to accept us. Now, this one that we just had broody, we won't have to train her. She's already trained. She knows that when I come in, she'll lift up, she'll let me check her eggs. So we'll train the others when they become broody to lift up, let me check the eggs. And after a week or so, they'll get used to that. And then I'm going to relocate the broody hen with her eggs into a secure area so we don't have to worry about the other chickens picking on these chicks while the mother is eating. I just don't know what went wrong. So we've learned our lesson. Like I said, this was a learning experience for us. 50% of the website said to do it one way where the hen will take care of it all by herself, and 50% of the website said no, you gotta relocate them to get them away from the rest. It doesn't make sense to me. How do they survive in the wild if they don't take care of their chicks? I mean, someone's got to keep these guys warm. They'll die if they get too cold. Yesterday, she wouldn't take care of them. It was probably 55 degrees outside. The camper was probably 60 degrees, and they were cold. They were shivering. That's one of the reasons we brought them up. They were shivering, and I didn't want to get them too cold. But we've had chicks die from being too cold when they were being delivered here. I told you about that last year. I'm not going to get into that story again. So I didn't really want to have to do this, where I had to take care of the chicks myself. I'm really kind of disappointed. Fortunately, it's only 2. So we can put them in a little box here in our little tiny house, and it won't be a big deal. The biggest problem I have is getting these guys to integrate with the bigger chicks. The bigger chicks will peck these things to death if we integrate them too soon. And there's all kinds of theories on how to do it. You're supposed to integrate them at night and all that, and it's just not true. Until they're big enough to take care of themselves and deal with the pecking order, the other chicks will just destroy them. So we'll have to raise these things probably until September. So here it is, April. So all those months we'll have to take care of these guys, make sure they're separated. My guess is we'll take them down to the camper. The camper gets pretty warm, but does have an air conditioner in there. So if it gets too hot, I can run the air conditioner. We're going to set up a little thing that I bought last year. We'll set that up in the chicken run. That way they can be in there as well, unless another chicken goes broody. If another chicken goes broody, then we're going to put the broody chicken into that little house that we bought last year. It's real small. It can only hold maybe 1 or 2 chickens at most. And so if that happens, then we're going to have to put these guys somewhere else. It's a struggle. We don't have the resources to raise multiple age groups of chickens. It's not to say we can't. We could go buy another coop and do the whole thing, but when you're doing multiple, more than one, let's say, I could handle this batch right here. Wouldn't be a big deal. Put them out there in that little house that we bought last year. They'd be fine. But like I said, another hen goes broody. Well, now you've got 3 different age groups. Depending on how old these guys are, You can't put the new chickens in with that chicken. You can't put the broody hen in with these chickens. She'll beat them to death. These would beat the little chicks to death that they will now be older than. So it's just a complicated process, and I was really hoping the mom would take care of them, and she just wouldn't. Something I'm going to have to think about a little bit more and how we're going to deal with this in the future. We got that farm that we go to buy our chickens from last year, and she's got a really nice setup. I mean, but that's what she does for a living. She's got different buildings, different crates, well, she actually puts some of them in like rabbit hutches. So, I mean, she's got a huge setup. I don't necessarily want to have that kind of setup where I'm just raising 2 chickens here or there. But we want to raise chickens at least every year or every other year or something, new chickens, because the old ones, as they get older, they'll stop producing eggs. Or when they start to reduce the amount of eggs they're producing, then we'll probably just take them out of circulation, probably butcher them and eat them, can them like we have right here. Now, since we live off grid, we don't put a heat lamp in there. A lot of people will put a heat lamp in there. I don't think a heat lamp is necessarily good for chickens or chicks because they like to sleep in the dark. You shine a light in here at night, they'll wake right up. So I don't think they get a good night's sleep when there's a light in there. So since we're off grid, we had to figure out a different way to keep them warm. So we use a bottle of hot water. We put the hottest water we can with our little on-demand water heater. And I get up at about 2:30 in the morning, I replace it. So when this thing cools down to my touch, my 98.6 degrees, then I replace it. Because right now they need to be right around 100 degrees. What's interesting is the water is so hot that I can barely pick the bottle up. But they lay right up against it. Doesn't seem to even bother them. I guess the feathers protect them. But boy, they lay right up against it. You'll see that the light is kind of flashing. What it is I have an LED lantern, and it pulsates. The human eye can't see it, but the camera sees it very well. It's interesting how LED lights work. Now, we got food over here, also food and water. I just took it out so I could film this. So there's the food. That is 18%, I think, protein. It's called Chick Starter. You can get that at Orscheln's. We bought a big bag of it. They won't even come close to eating it. We probably won't use that bag of food all year. So what we'll do is when we're done raising chickens in September, we'll just go ahead and mix this in with the egg layer food we got. That way it doesn't go to waste. Now you'll see that I didn't put pine chips in here. Last year we put pine chips in, but this year I got straw. I put it in there. And that serves 2 purposes. It makes a nice bedding, but also they love the seeds. That's all pretty much what they've been eating all morning. They ate a little bit of their food. So, but when I put this in with the regular chickens, man, they just go nuts over this. They really like that straw. So I thought I'd use that, and it seems to be working pretty good. So last night it got down to 41 degrees, which was not very cold, really. As a matter of fact, I probably wouldn't even worried about it last night, except we had the chickens in here. Normally, it gets down that cold. It'll probably drop down to 59 degrees or so in the house, and then in the morning I can start a fire. Or if it's going to get warm throughout the day, I'll just run the little buddy heater. But last night I got up at 2:30 and it was 65 degrees in the house. So I went ahead and started the fire, which made it extremely hot in here. I don't know how hot it got, but when I woke up it was 91 degrees. But I did that because I didn't want the chickens to get too cold, even though I got the water bottle in there. The water bottle will cool off faster. I just thought it'd be safer. Now, that is another reason we wanted to bring them up, was the temperature is going to drop over the next few days, which has been a very big concern for me since she went broody, is the temperature goes up high and then it drops back down to freezing. So we got 2 nights of freezing temperatures. Now, for some reason, one of the chicks would have left her comfort if she would have taken care of them. If they would have left her comfort, they would have froze. It's just way too cold for them. And then during the day, of course, she's going to go out and eat. I wasn't sure. This is all our first time. Another good reason for bringing them up. I wish we could get the temperatures to stay up in the warmer temperatures. I'm tired of carrying firewood up here. I'm about done with winter. I'm not really tired of it. The problem is it's raining so much, so I got to time bringing firewood in here after it dries. Like today, it's really windy. I would imagine we're getting wind gusts 40, 50 miles an hour. It's pretty windy. So the wood's going to dry out. So tonight I'll bring some wood up. What has happened in the past is I'll let it dry and then it immediately starts raining before I get the wood up. Hopefully it won't rain anymore. I don't see any rain in the forecast for a few days, so I'll bring some more wood up. But I only got a couple burns left here. I'd say maybe two burns left. And then we'll be out of firewood up here. And so I want to make sure I get it dried by the wind. And then when I bring it up, the wood stove will dry it out even more. So we're back to the last year of trying to start up a chicken farm, it feels like. But I'm telling you, I'm a lot more relieved it's only 2. Last time we did it, we had big batches of chickens. The first batch, I guess we had 8 or 10 chickens, and then the second batch we had probably another 8 or 10. And that was the problem, was the second batch was the biggest problem. Every morning I go into the camper, I gather them all up. Of course, they don't want to be touched. They try to get away from you. And then you take them out to the chicken run, and then in the evening it was even worse because the chicken run was bigger, so you're chasing them around all over the chicken run. The only one that would let me pick her up was Two-Faced. She would kind of get up there next to the bin that I was going to carry him in, and she'd just wait for me to pick her up. She was a little bit easier, but of course we brought her up because she had an eye injury. And then we got the meat birds last year, and that just messed everything up. I mean, the meat birds took up so much room. I really didn't have any way of dealing with the Americanas, which was the second batch of chickens. So this one just being 2 chickens, I'm sure we can figure out something. Even if we got to go get a dog carrier, that would be big enough, one of those big cage dog carriers. I would imagine you get a large breed dog carrier and that'd be plenty of room for the chickens. Then you can move them around the yard, they could eat. If you would do me a favor and hit that up next box, that'd take you over my other channel. I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to work through your problems when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.